Hey guys, what's up? Excoundrel here, and today we're going to be looking at 3.1 meta predictions. I'm talking about the best hero picks for 5v5 ranked before I publish my official list once we've looked at win rates and looked at how the meta has developed in general. This is purely based on predictions, based on previous meta analysis done by vgpro.gg. They kindly supplied me with the win rates for heroes in different roles, and this is the fact sheet that they published on their Twitter looking at hero popularity. These are the top picks in each role, not the top win rates in each role. So you can see the top 5 picks for each role from POA above in 5v5. What I want to know is how the 3.1 changes are actually going to affect A, the popularity, and B, the win rate, because obviously those are the most important things that we need to look at. So, starting from the top left, Vox received a change. Now, it's technically a buff to his CP build path because now your A actually deals CP damage, but his weapon power build path inadvertently got slightly nerfed. Gwen got a pretty decent nerf. Saw got a pretty decent nerf. Celeste also got a buff, and alongside the fact that we haven't had any CP item changes in 3.1, Celeste is definitely going to be a super popular pick. The likes of Saw and Gwen are also going to suffer at the hands of the critical strike nerf to the damage on the Tyrant's monocle, so obviously some of their build paths will be slightly affected, and that'll make them worse as well. Koshka got the nerf hammer again, as did Cruel. Cruel really kind of was in a position where he was okay, I felt, but he got the nerf too. Arden got changed in terms of being nerfed on his CP build path, but base damaging going up, we calculated, was generally going to be a buff for him in most situations. The same with Grace. Weapon power Grace definitely took a hit, but in general her base damage went up, so that often means a buff in almost every other situation. There was a nerf to Fortress, a pretty hefty nerf. He was probably one of the highest win rate heroes in the entire game. I think actually, if you look across every single win rate for every single hero in this particular category, which is 5v5, POA and above, Fortress had the highest win rate out of any single hero, and that is across Captain and jungle. So this isn't just separated into captain, this is probably taking into account his jungle stats as well, but he was popular and very, very good in both roles. And Lance, who has a pretty low win rate comparably compared to almost every other jungler, but it's because he's got a pretty high skill cap, he's very skill shot dependent, and often, you know, if you're not a good Lance main, you'll find you won't have as much success with him. He got a buff, pretty heavy buff, so I expect to see him become more popular and see his win rate go up. In general, guys, you'll notice that nerfs will often affect play rate, but also affect win rate, so we expect those guys to move down the list. Anybody that gets buffed is likely to move up the list slightly as well. So this is just the popularity, though. Let's have a look at exactly what the win rates were for heroes on the last update. Because that was all very well and good looking at the pick rates, but the pick rates don't often reflect how good a hero is. This is the 5v5 win rates for anybody that was in Pinnacle of Awesome Plus on update 3.0, and this is the top 5 heroes in each role in terms of win rate. So we can see here that Alpha and Koshka pretty much dominated the jungle. Cruel was in the top 5. These were 3 of the top 5 picks that I thought was going to be sort of popping off in 3.0, and they did. Interesting to see Batiste and Glaive in there. I did select Glaive as one of my heroes. That was because I personally liked him. I didn't think he'd be such high win rate, but he is a hero that's got great ganking potential. Batiste is the inclusion that's very interesting for me, and since he didn't get changed, and also you'll notice that a lot of his build paths, the CP build paths, and a lot of his weapon power build paths didn't get touched. I imagine the Batiste win rate is either going to stay the same or go up, and that will make him a very, very powerful hero in the jungle on this next update. Looking over at the carry position, Rhona at the top, followed by Samuel very closely, both of whom got a nerf in the last update. Idris and Jewel untouched and Celeste getting a buff means I'm likely to see those 3 shift their position up as you see them. Maybe you'll see Celeste overtake the Jewel, but that's quite a gap. That's about 1% gap in win rate that you'd have to make up, which would require a pretty significant buff. Also, you've got to note that Jewel is likely one of those heroes that you see win because she just sits in the side lane and split pushes all day. Doesn't detract from her ability, but it does also force you into a specific strategy a lot of the time. Having a look at the captains. Now, the captain win rates are very hard to take at face value because Fortress has likely been played in the jungle a lot. Weapon power Grace was a thing on the last update. So take it with a pinch of salt. Grace's win rate is only going to go up because she got buffed as a captain, realistically. Finn got a slight buff, so we might expect to see his win rate go up. The interesting one is Flicker. He is definitely a solo queue stomper. The problem with Flicker is his kit is still really kind of bad compared to a lot of other heroes, but the fact that he can stealth and the fact that he can go into a lane and constantly roam the map quite easily makes him quite powerful in that respect. Definitely not something that's super good in competitive, especially with good vision control, but he is a decent hero for solo queue, so I probably expect to see his win rate hover around here. Fortress will definitely drop despite the nerfs. That didn't seem over the top, but he would definitely take a hit to his win rate. Interesting about Catherine, not so sure how that will reflect her. She got changed, it wasn't really a buff or a nerf. Captain Catherine kind of doing okay, so we'll have to see. She will probably stay around where she is. So let's move on to what I think will be the reflected top 5 list, just based on win rates that are below this and things moving around, because I think we will see some reflections in win rate changes just based on these nerf lists. So let's take a look at the changes that I've made to these lists based on what we think is going to happen over the course of update 3.1. No changes to Batiste makes him very, very powerful. I think he's going to be one of our top junglers. The nerf to Koshka wasn't that bad, so I don't think she moves that much. She only lost 10 base damage on her Twelly death, which isn't a huge amount. She also had an energy increase, but realistically, I still think Koshka's going to be in an okay spot. Alpha's health nerf definitely hurts her weapon power build path. She still is an Aftershock jungler that uses Aftershock really well, however, so I still think Alpha will have a place in our top 5. Glaive, no changes to him. He also does really well with Serpent's Mask, which I think is going to be a big item on this update, so Glaive is definitely one to consider. And Grumpjaw coming through. Now, I know you say nerfs the Tyrant's Monocle, but a lot of people are playing a Tension Bow Aftershock Grumpjaw build. Whilst Tension Bow did get nerfed, Grumpjaw is still really strong, and I think we could see him sneak his way into our top 5. Carries, with no changes to Idris and really no major changes to his build paths either, I think Idris is going to probably top the charts in terms of win rate. Rhona's going to drop slightly, but not by too much. Only changes were her to her ultimate, which realistically affect her team fighting more than anything else. And a lot of people were playing Rhona as a split push monster, a critical strike build, as she just slammed through those turrets. So I don't think Rhona's going to move a huge amount. Celeste jumps up 2 places, in part due to the fact that the Tyrant's Monocle nerf is going to hit Jewel pretty hard. And also the fact that she got a buff. No CP item changes. Definitely think Celeste is going to be in a good place in this update. With the likes of Idris and Celeste and other squishy carries kind of rising up, I think Reza didn't get any nerfs. Still very good with the items that are on display. And then obviously all those items didn't get nerfed either. So Reza I think is going to be in a good spot. He'll sneak his way into our carry list. And Jewel, like I said, no inherent changes to Jewel, but the changes to Tyrant's Monocle I think will affect Jewel more than anything. She kind of relied on double Tyrant's Monocle in her build to have that critical strike based build, and the weapon power nerf to Tyrant's Monocle will hit Jewel inadvertently. The captain list, I think Flicker, no changes there, will rise definitely in solo queue. Grace is going to be super strong in the captain role right now. I think she'll be one of the top priority captains. Finn's win rate will definitely rise. Fortress has dropped quite significantly, but he'll still be a really good 5v5 hero because he has great roam potential and has the ability to single out a target in a gank really nicely. So he's a really good roaming ganking that requires not much mechanical skill to make work, which is why he's there over Lance, for instance. And Arden, with the buffs to his captain build, probably going to sneak his way onto the win rates. One thing I want to make very clear now, guys, is win rates does not reflect what is like meta or sort of super good in every situation. Win rates are there as a blank statistic. They don't accurately always reflect what is the best hero right now, because they often sort of require certain compositions to work, or they require certain playstyles to work. So when it comes to competitive games, and we have to think back to 3.0 where the matchmaker was kind of wonky, we're not sure whether all of these games are like on even grounds, right? A lot of people were complaining about matchmaker through 3.0. It only got fixed halfway through. So take a pinch of salt when looking at these win rates in a holistic view. Realistically, I think we'll see a massive shift, but if we can hit 3 on each of these lists, I will be happy. But I will do a proper meta video when it comes to releasing my full top heroes for 3.1 once we've got used to the 5v5 meta and once we've seen ranked a little bit as well. So this is just my predictions. I think this is some bold stuff just based on win rates and buffs and nerfs, but hopefully gives you some idea about what you could be trying out in ranked. And by next week, we'll have an idea of what is good and what it isn't, and we'll be able to make a meta video on it. That is everything from this video. Thank you to VGPro.gg for the statistics, and I will see you next time.